Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
Welcome to B-Sides and Beers, episode 33. Tonight we're talking censorship in music, the PMRC, and the Filthy 15. How are we doing tonight, boys?
Excellent.
Good.
Real good.
Awesome.
How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Other than all the brokenness that I explained before, but we don't need to get into that. So it's all klutzness on my part, and yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're good. We're fucking awesome. We're rocking here. Got some great beers.
Yes, indeed. And what an interesting topic.
I think so too. I've been wanting to talk about it for quite some time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I'll save this for later. Yeah. I want to talk beer first and then before, because I want to jump right into it, right? But Mike, what are you drinking? Let's start with that.
All right. Well, tonight I've got a Trench Brewery Bramble. It is a raspberry vanilla wheat ale, and it's 4.5%.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah. Never heard of Trench. Where is that?
that is out of Prince George.
I like that can too.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool.
Let's see that. What do we got?
Just simple, naturey mountains, lakes.
I like the logo too.
Raspberries. Yeah, it's a very cool one.
Nice. And have you tried it?
Not yet. This will be my first. So I got that, and I've got a to go with our Filthy 15. I've got the Filthy Dirty IPA from Parallel 49.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
Excellent.
with some more great artwork from our last guest,
Yeah, I noticed that stuff in the store
Steve
like,
Kitchen.
even more now. So
Yeah, it's everywhere.
it's pretty cool. I am drinking. You guys, you're gonna have to tell me what this is because I've never heard of this kind. But this is I have had Driftwood Brewery before, but this is Crimea River Goss or Goose.
Crimea River.
Yeah,
a Gose.
check out this can.
Oh, that is awesome.
Very
Do you know what
It's like she's
that is?
Drowning in tears.
Is that a Goss
Looks like she's drowning in
or a
tears.
Ghost?
I think it's a Gose.
Ghosts. You know, I don't know.
Oh, a Gose. I didn't even think about that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Has
I
anybody
think
ever
that's how
tried
you
that?
pronounce it.
Never.
Okay. Well, I'm giving that a whirl. I mean, it's an awesome can too. So, and Driftwood is in Victoria, right? Yeah, Victoria.
Yeah.
And I also have.
So what is a Gose?
Yeah, do you
It's
guys know what
almost
that
like
is?
German beer. It's almost like a sour. It should have sort of like a citrusy taste to it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's got a very detailed story on the side of the can, and I'm not going to read it, but it's pretty intense. Like it's not just tells you nothing about what the flavors are. It just it's funny. So I've got that.
Huh.
And maybe, you know what? I mean, if somebody from Driftwood Brewery wants to come on and talk to us about this beer and tell us what a Gose or a Goose or a Goss is, we'd love to have you on here so we can
Give us the proper breakdown.
Absolutely. And I also have the Trail Beer Refinery. I have the Happy Hour Lager. And
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
yeah. And then, of course, that is out of Trail, BC.
Nice. Very simple can.
Totally. Yep. And I've never had this before either, so I'm going to give her a whirl.
Wicked.
Dane, over to you.
Looks good. Looks good. I'm also drinking Driftwood, or about to. I've got a what's it called? Raised by Wolves IPA,
That's a great can,
and this
too.
is a pretty, yeah. So for my birthday, I asked Kira to go and just grab me some beers, and she doesn't know a lot about beer. She doesn't drink beer. but she went in and got some pretty awesome ones. So yeah, she picked up this one, which is a pretty delicious. Actually, I'm not a fan of IPAs, but this one is really quite good. It's a 7%, so it's pretty strong. And then I've got a Moon Underwater Hip as Funk Farmhouse IPA.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know much about this brewery, but I've heard of them. I think also out of Victoria.
Sorry, Dane, what's
yes,
it again?
out of
What's
Victoria.
the name of the brewery again?
This is a Moon Underwater. There you go.
It's quite the beard.
Yeah. And then I've got a Vancouver Island Brewing Victoria Pilsner. That's going to be delicious.
Nice.
And then a Talesman West Coast Pale Ale. And this is just a nice, like 4% easygoing pale ale. And these guys are I think they're out of Vancouver, actually. 1345 Clark Drive. But yeah, I'm sorry. This is a Strange Fellows. That's the name of the brewery. Strange Fellows Brewing.
Cool.
And this is a Talesman West Coast Pale Ale.
Another great can on that too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cure like the
mermaid.
Yeah. The fishes, the strategically placed fish.
Yeah.
Very well thought out.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
That's a good selection. And you're bang on the Crimea River Gosset. It is
Gosset.
kind of has a sour taste to it. It's got a little tartness. Yeah. But it's not like full
It should
on
be a little
sour.
salty.
Yeah, kind of.
No. Yeah, but they're good. They're not like a punch you in the mouth sour.
No.
But
It's good.
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of lead into this episode, this topic, I guess, too, and just say, you know, Mike, when you first sent that list to us, I mean, I didn't know all the songs on there. I didn't know all the artists on there. And I thought that this is just like a curated 15 songs of like the baddest of what was back in the 80s, right? So when I started doing research on it, I was like, okay, I knew about this part of it, right? Like I knew the Tipper Gore part, I knew all of that, but I didn't connect the two until I started doing research on this topic. So it was good. It was a good topic to pick because it just kind of brought it back full circle for me, and then I was able to connect the dots and do kind of some deep dives into it, which was good.
Yeah, and it's a cool topic because you can take it from so many different angles. You don't have to dig into individual songs on the list, and you can get into the political side of things. Want to get into the future effects. The affecting waves kind of a deal. So it's a pretty deep topic. I mean, we probably won't be able to cover everything in such a short time, but it's super interesting. I got into pretty big deep dives and found some really cool videos and stuff that were pretty rad. So
I find it super interesting that it's such an eclectic mix.
Yeah.
And it's not just like Tipper Gore and her buddies just focusing on one genre.
Right.
But the one genre that I feel like is missing here, and this is almost like, excuse me, because you got those little stickers once your music was deemed inappropriate, right? Like,
and that's where that came from, the parental advisory stickers.
Exactly, and it's almost like a badge of honor. So I'm like, well, where's rap? Where's like, because this is 85, is it not, when this list was made?
It was still technically too early. I mean, rap was starting to get big, but it wasn't as much of a household name.
Wasn't as mainstream,
or
as
wasn't as
stuff.
much of it wasn't touching the government yet, kind of thing.
Right. But some of this stuff, I'm like, of course this would have been on the radio. But then there's some other stuff like Venom. I'm like, how did Venom make this?
Yeah,
list?
that's pretty obscure for that group of women to dig into. And I, from what I've found out, it's they hand-picked all these songs. It's not like this is the worst of the worst, but this is what they kind of dug up. So it
Right.
It just seems very random. going from Prince to Sheena Easton to Wasp to Def Leppard to AC/DC. Like, it's just kind of all over the place.
Dirty Def Lep, yeah.
That's a great song.
That whole album was good.
I think it's funny that Prince kind of shows up on this list like 3 times though, right? Like, he shows up on his own, right? He shows up in the like Sheena Easton song. He shows up in the Vanity, with the Purple Rain connection. Like, he's on this list 3 times, kind of not on purpose, but kind of on purpose, right? So, I love that he's just kind of, there, just there. But
filthy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But when I started doing research on this, I kind of started with the 3 testimonies, and I wanted to watch those 3 testimonies in their entirety and the most that I could find, right, of those videos. So I started with D. Snyder, and I started with his, and his was so good, man. Like, he's like, I don't know who called our manager and asked me to come and speak at this. But he's like, I got the message. He said, I was chosen to carry this flag into battle. And he was like, hell yes. He's like, I'm going to do that. Right. So he shows up to the hearing. He looks, his hair is all teased out. He's wearing his like tightest jeans. He's got a jean jacket on, right? He looks like D. Snyder. Looked like D. Snyder, 1984, right? And he pulls out his speech, which is in his back pocket and crumpled like 50 times. And he just like kind of, smooths that out on the table and then starts just like spitting fire at these guys. And it's fantastic to watch them just squirm. And they have no idea, because I think they wanted to get this guy in because he was like this big rock buffoon that they thought they could just posterize right there on the spot and be like, yeah, well, check this out, right? And he'd be like, but instead he just turned the tables on him and completely owned the entire thing, right? And the funny thing is too, that I found out in one of those videos is, sorry I'm talking so much on this, but they asked him to pre-submit what he was going to say at the thing. So he was like, no, he's like, show me yours. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. And they're like, oh no, we're not going to be doing that. He's like, then you don't get it. Then it doesn't happen. He's like, or I'm not coming. And they're like, oh, it's fine. Just come and say what you got to say. And then completely lambasted him, right? So
come in here, you dumb mouth breather. And then he comes in this, highly educated, he's got all his facts and everything just rock solid.
Yeah. And Twisted Sister's making a ton of cash during that time because D's in his peak. And, like...
We're not gonna take it.
But really, I mean, at that point, he had to do something because it was so terrifying, the idea of this censorship to a lot of bands, because you look at with Twisted Sister, I mean, basically they had just come out, or they had just... Dee's career was just starting for the most part. I mean, they came from a long line of touring and bar bands and doing the grind. But as soon as they started getting notoriety, then this floods in, and if this would have affected things in a very negative way, it could have shut down his whole career. So it's awesome that he stepped up. I mean, when he gets in there and they start selling albums, and then as soon as this whole parental advisory thing passes, you got huge sellers like Kmart and these big box stores that are either refusing to carry these albums or hide them from people, right? So,
but there's a little bit of irony in this, and I don't know if you guys found. So, Twisted Sister, they were pretty big on the East Coast, and they sort of toured up and down, and their big thing was disco's dead. And they like did all of these like crazy stunts where they like destroyed disco records and stuff, and had all these banners in the bars like before they played. And so they were like kind of, behind the censorship of, I guess, disco, and calling for that to end. And then they find themselves on the other side where like people are questioning their lyrics. And maybe there was like the image part maybe that was more the stuff that like these people were after, because it was quite like, I mean, they were like, as far as like the glam rock, they pushed it like way to the edge.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were
Over the top, kind of girl doll makeup. And,
yeah, exactly. And like almost brutal, like beauty. I don't know how you would describe it, but I just find it like really ironic that these guys who are just like all about like expressing and doing whatever the fuck they want, and we're not going to take it, and yet they called for the end of disco. So,
well, disco was kind of on its way out anyway. I mean, once the only thing that really kept disco going was the cocaine. So it was just good background music for all the blow that was happening in the 70s,
And the
right?
Bee Gees.
So. And the Bee Gees, yeah.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I haven't seen very many, quote unquote celebrities or famous people in public before. I haven't had very many of those. But Dee Snider is one guy that I did see in public. I saw him in New York City.
No way.
Yeah, on Christmas Eve. I saw him, and it was awesome. It was just like this kind of perfect moment, and he was just kind of getting into a cab, but then somebody's like, Dee Snider, and he's like, see you, man, and then jumped into the cab, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
Obviously hair like pulled back, right?
Oh
And,
yeah, like this is wearing Lee jeans and black Lee jeans and cowboy boots and
Toned right down.
pulled right back, and that's it.
right on.
And then Zappa's interview. I watched Zappa's interview next. And
that was solid.
He was fantastic again, and laid it all out.
Yeah.
Right. And he was like this kind of the smart one out of all of those guys, it seemed like, when he was speaking to them. Right.
Yeah.
But they also said Dee Snider, there was a Sirius XM interview with him, and they said, like, did you ever meet John Denver? Because John Denver was the other guy who came to speak. Right. And
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
And he's like, Frank and I talked backstage, or he called it backstage, but like before they went on to do it, right? And he's like, we didn't talk to John Denver, and he's like, we thought he was gonna like go the other way. So
Everyone did.
So we're like, we didn't know if he was gonna be like, no, I completely agree with you. We need to have the censorship, right? But he's like, he went out there and absolutely owned it. And he's like, I never got a chance to shake his hand. I never met him. But he's like, I wish I did. So, yeah. And they called too. The other thing I had was that Denver was the heart, Zappa was the brains, and D was the strength. And that's kind of what put it all together. It was like the perfect combination of when their powers combined. They,
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's funny that they pick those people, right? Like,
Yeah, which is totally bizarre.
They didn't offer it up, but
No.
And I think that they were looking for stuff, right? They were going to look. They were hunting for that kind of stuff. I think that's why like bands like Venom came up, because they were looking for try to find the most vile, insane thing where they can be like, yeah, well, check this out. Look at what we found. Venom, right? This is about the occult. Yeah, like. This is real bad stuff.
Well, that was kind of cool. That was kind of a thing too, where they had their list of the artists and the songs, and then they had their own side rating where they would have it designated to letters. So you had an X for profane or sexually explicit. You had an O for occult. You had a D/A for drugs and alcohol, and you had a V for violence. So they, for the most part, they were going after, I guess, lyrical censorship, but then you look at the album cover work and you look at it's just so bizarre, because there was so much. It was more of a misinformation campaign, it seemed, than anything. So I mean, you've got Tipper Gore going out there and talking to parents and preaching to them that these are all horrible, awful things, and there's bits and pieces, I guess, but for the most part, it's not the government's place to do that. When it comes down to, it should be the parents' place
and
to try and guide your kids. I mean, when she's talking that she picked up Purple Rain, and the first one was Prince Darlene Nikki, and that was the thing that kicked it right off, where she was completely offended and shocked. But I mean, when you're picking up a Prince album, you should know that there's some sort of sexual something behind it, and why would you buy that for your, what was she, like 9, that her daughter kind of thing?
And that's what kicked it off.
Yeah, that's what incited her rage on the whole thing, and
Right.
got her pushing to change things. So.
The inside of that record, because I own that. I own that record, and there is on the sleeve is on one side is the like when doves cry, just like the one like single teardrop like that drawing, but on the other side is Prince like arching his ass up on a bed that is like, and his ass is just barely covered by this like sheet. It's like, but you can kind of see a little bit of crack, but like super suggestive and right. So I mean, come on, what do you think you're getting into, right? Like,
and it wasn't Prince's first album, so you have to have some sort of idea of what this guy's about.
See, that seems a bit contrived to me, that like she just like unknowingly picked up a Prince album and didn't know what she was getting into. I think to me this looks like some sort of blacklist, because like some of them by today's standards are, I would say, excessive. Like even the AC/DC song, like the melody's cool, but like it's a little forceful.
They're a very dirty band, and I can totally see that.
Sure, but I mean, like some of these are like, they're suggesting like sexual violence, rape, whatever. It's really up to the listener to interpret it, but like some of it's pretty like, it's pretty candid, and like I think that definitely deserves some debate. Where like Cyndi Lauper, She Bop, I mean, that's a stretch.
There's a few of those that are like, stretches on there. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know, like, I guess I kind of wanted to ask you guys when I was doing the research on it, I wanted to get your opinion as to whether or not you thought that the parental advisory sticker was in the end a good idea or not. And kind of a follow-up question to that is, when you went to the record store to go pick out a CD, did it pique your interest more when you saw the parental advisory sticker on the CD or the cassette?
Definitely. It made you want that album more.
Yeah, for sure.
The forbidden kind of, you can't have this, so this is what I want. And I mean, it helped me pick out a lot of great albums. Absolutely. At the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it was a badge of approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a child of the 80s, Mike, like, my parents bought me Appetite for Destruction when I was in grade 5. So it didn't do anything for them.
Yeah.
Right.
They probably didn't even notice. They probably didn't even know this whole thing was going on, right?
Yeah. And like when I was a kid, I thought that the parental advisory sticker just meant that there was swears. This album has swears. I didn't think of like content and like, the things that they have, that they kind of go for stretches on this list, right? But I think it kind of goes back to what you mentioned, Mike, and the parental involvement on that, right?
Yeah.
And I found a good quote, again, going back to Dee Snider, where he was talking about, he said, everything I represented, stood for, and said back then, I have lived and stand by today. So he said, as a parent, I monitored what my kids listened to. When my kids wanted to listen to Eminem, I listened to the album and talked about it with my kids and used it as a forum for discussion, right? Like, this is hands-on parenting and everything I stood for. That was basically his quote on it, right? So,
and that's how it should be,
right? Like that's that's how it goes. But
yeah. I mean, what a way to make something more appetizing than make it like, it's like the cookie jar. You want to put your hand in the cookie jar. Yeah. You want to get that cookie. And like, I remember when I was a little kid, my parents were sleeping, I'd like grab the butter from the fridge and just eat butter. Because I wasn't allowed to do that. Same thing with the sugar bowl, right? I just like get that sugar bowl, get a spoon and just fucking eat sugar. Because I wasn't allowed to do it, but like I wanted to do it. So
and super fucking Christmas.
And super Christmas. But it's like, it's weird because it was something that didn't seem like it was completely thought out. It was like it was a campaign, obviously, but like, what were their true intentions behind it? I don't think it was just like censoring things that had to deal with like sex violence and
you got to meet all the artists,
and,
right? Like that was the lure. Maybe, you know, she got to meet Dee Snider. She got to meet Frank Zappa. John Denver came in through there.
Right.
Well, it's funny too. I mean, when you look back at the artists prior to that, with Elvis being banned for shaking his hips.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've got the Beatles and all their drug songs, and you've got, you know, this super long list. I mean, where, you know, it's always been around and it will always be around in whatever form. I don't think it should have been a solid parental advisory system, but I kind of agree with an age range anyway. You know, you shouldn't be buying this for a 4-year-old or a 7-year-old or they have to be at a certain mental capacity to be able to process it, right?
I think so, yeah.
And it comes down to parental at that point. I mean, there's some songs that I want to listen to and that I've always kind of, I've listened to for that past 20, 30 years that I can't listen to around my kids because it's just not quite right.
Yeah, and I think...
But when they're 14 or 15, sure, let's sit down and let's talk about it, right?
And I think of like another medium of art, and I think of movies, right? And I think of movies, and movies have a rating, right? I know that I'm not going to take my kid into this movie because of X, Y, and Z that's going to happen, right? Same thing goes for music, right? If you don't have a way to sample it or know anything about it before going in, you have to be able to know that this is not going to be appropriate for your child. So I get that. Yeah.
Right.
Ratings, I like that idea more than a parental advisory sticker. Right?
Yeah, it should have been more like the video game and movie industry became later on. Like they should have fine-tuned it to 15 plus or PG or that sort of thing. That would make more sense.
So was this just like the awkward attempt at establishing some sort of rating system for music? Because like they had it for movies already, right? Like you had your R, your PG-13, that stuff. But music had not had a rating system up until this point, right? And it was just like an awkward first stab at it, maybe.
Yeah.
Like kind of feels like that, yeah.
Like maybe the PMRC were just a little overzealous, but in the end, they got their rating system. So, this talks about the occult. Maybe not for my kid.
Yeah.
Or perfect for my child.
I'll keep that for me, but not for my kid.
This is going to be sweet when they go to bed.
We're right into our plans. Yeah.
Okay, so favorite songs. Oh, sorry, Mike. Did we answer your question?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, that's good because I feel it the same way, right? Like it was an allure in the record store to go and grab that parental advisory sticker because you knew that music was probably going to be angry in some form or another, and that's probably what you were looking for. So you ended up buying that, right? So mixed with other things, it wasn't just all driven by the sticker, but it was definitely a nice little shining gold star on it, right?
Oh yeah.
So.
Like this is gonna be good.
Yeah, and yes, you did answer my questions. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, favorite songs on this interesting list. Top three.
Well, it's a really cool. It's a cool list. I mean, there's a lot of good songs on there. For every genre, from the pop to the metal to the rock that they decided to pursue. I mean, most of these songs and bands I like. So it's hard to pick out. I mean, and even going to the Def Leppard one where, I didn't put a lot of time into that album, but after the fact, from doing a front to back, it's like, this is a good album.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, that's another tough song to see why it's on that list. I mean, it's pretty vague.
I think because he says high. I don't know. It's weird.
But it comes down to the Doors.
Yeah.
Baby couldn't get much higher kind of thing. Right? I mean, what?
Girl, we couldn't get much better.
We couldn't get much better. Stupid Sullivan.
Yeah.
You know what? I couldn't give Judas Priest the time of day.
Yeah.
I always thought they just weren't my whatever.
Yeah.
But great song. And great song. It makes me want to listen to a little bit more Priest. That's for
There's
sure.
a lot of good stuff, man.
Yeah. I don't know.
You kind of only need like 2 albums, but
right. Yeah. I think there's like what you listen to is what you get with Priest, but
Right.
It was good.
even just get British Steel and you're
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Yeah. Venom was a hard listen though.
I like a lot of I like a lot of Venom, but it's one of these things where you have to be in the. It's really cool. Like I've always listened to Venom as more of background music, blaring while I'm doing other things.
Sure.
It's not something I want to focus on, but it's a lot of that style I just kind of put on and crank up when I'm doing other stuff around the house or.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Mike. Like, there's lots of bands that I'm into on this list, so it was, no big deal for some of these. But like I said at the beginning, I've always loved Prince, and and
Yeah.
I mean that song is on, one of my favorite albums. So. It was good to see that on the list. yeah, because it's a good track, but the whole album as a whole is fantastic. So definitely that one. But there's quite a few on there where it was good to go back to some of them too that I hadn't listened to in a while. So it was good. It was good doing research on this one.
No doubt. And fucking Dio, man. I totally just again disregarded that whole era of Black Sabbath and like whatever. I know a lot of people are like, why the fuck not? Dio was the best, but it is good. It's good. I mean, it's a different kind of Black Sabbath, right? You guys just
Your internet's
Gonna
cutting
have
out,
to
dude.
edit this
Oh.
out.
Yep.
Okay.
Cut this portion out.
Yeah,
I
I'm
cut
just
out a
getting the
little
thing
earlier
here.
too, but I wasn't talking.
Galdarn, can you hear me now?
You glitched, but
Yeah.
Shit.
come on, internet.
Yeah, get him the paddles. Get him the paddles. Yeah.
Clear.
Got that same fucking look on his face. This is a nice little intermission. I kind of like this. We should do this every time.
Do 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 do.
Go to the lobby
Hello?
for some
Can you hear me?
snacks. Yep.
Ah, intermission. do 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 do.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
What the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, Dio.
I don't know, but it was pretty deep, and I'm sorry I missed it.
You guys were all frozen and I thought you guys were just staring at me like I was talking about fucking like nonsense. And I was like, Dio, Black Sabbath? Like that time.
That's
when
what you were
Dio
talking
was
about.
on
You were talking about
Sabbath?
Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys were just I was like, fuck, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about again. That happens.
You're glitching out again.
Son of a...
We got to see your frozen face again.
Yeah. I gotta figure you know what's weird? I've got a PC.
Strike a pose.
I've done like an internet speed test, and it's like twice as good on the PC than it is on the Mac.
Weird.
Yeah, don't know. All right. Well, if this continues, then I'll just like shut my video down.
Are you going to keep talking about Dio and Black Sabbath?
Well, fuck.
I want to know what you said
Yeah.
about Dio, man. You
The
can't like
magic's
not
gone.
now.
No, you
Magic's
can start it all again. 3, 2, 1.
All right.
Go.
So you know that time when Dio was in Black Sabbath?
That one time. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, I totally I totally didn't listen to Black Sabbath when that was the case, but like this song was pretty good. I mean, it's a different Black Sabbath. That's what I was saying. It's a different
Yeah.
Black Sabbath for sure.
Yeah.
But it was good. I liked it. It makes me want to listen to more Dio.
Dio was so good, man. And even Black Sabbath Dio, I go back and forth between Ozzy and Dio being, my top genre or my top era, I guess. I like when they switched to more of the sword and sorcery and the
Falsetto.
yeah. And more stories and in-depth stories and adventures. And I don't know. I thought it was a cool little pivot for the time. So, and then his solo stuff was
it's a cool little
exactly.
pivot.
That's the thing, man. That's what it was. I mean, it didn't change a lot.
No,
It
music
didn't change a
was,
lot,
yeah.
but the subject matter changed. When you go from Geezer writing all the lyrics to Dio writing all the lyrics, that's a big shift, right?
Yeah. But I mean, was Bill Ward still on the drums? Because that was really different too. It seemed really
for a little
different.
while he was. I think for Mob Rules he was.
Right.
Oh, I still remember
But
that
the
song.
Tony
man,
Iommi is
sorry,
like-
go ahead, Dane.
I was just gonna say, it's Tony Iommi, right? Like,
Definitely.
That is like you can tell, but like the drumming was like a little speedier. There was a little double kick in there, and yeah, definitely with Dio, just like the falsetto
Yeah.
singing. What were you gonna say, Mike?
Well, I was just gonna say, I always think Maximum Carnage on Super Nintendo. I used to play
yeah.
that game, and it had the beginning, the opening to that. When you like flick it on, it was the Mob Rules, but done by Green Jelly. Yeah,
Cool.
Oh yeah,
it was like that
That
fast too, right?
Yeah.
Like it was faster.
yeah.
That game was just
Yep.
awesome. It had like Venom, it had Carnage, it had Spider-Man, it had everything. It was a good one. That was one of my
Right.
favorite Super Nintendo games for sure. Anyways, I deviated off of the topic, but
No worries.
As we do.
yeah.
We should do a Super Nintendo.
Ooh, yes. Yeah, or
Episode.
like your chosen.
Down.
Okay, so you had Dane, you had Genesis, and the Amiga computer, which was always fun. And
Yeah.
Mike, what did you have?
Sega Master
Yeah,
System.
I had that too.
What the fuck is
I
that?
had that too. Yeah.
You never had the Sega Master
Was
System?
that the
was
CD-ROM?
No.
No, that was Sega CD. Sega
like
Master
a
System
little
came
mini.
out a little after NES came out.
Oh, that
So
was
Sega Master System was the big wide console with
the
it had
red
cartridge.
stripe. There was like a red
Yeah, so it had the top loading cartridge, and then it had these little cards that you can slide into the front.
Yeah.
right.
It was rad.
You must have
Yeah,
played it
I'm
when you came
still
over to
kicking
my house, Dane, because I had it when I was like 8.
I think so. Didn't you have like Top Gun or something like that?
Yeah,
Maybe that
Top
Peter
Gun was on there,
Alvarez.
and there was 2 built-in games in
Yeah.
that too. They kind of came with 2 built-in
Right.
games. Yeah,
There was Outrun and
Yeah.
something. Was Golden Axe on there? Remember Golden Axe?
Golden Axe was
I
on there.
love
The first
Golden
Golden
Axe,
Axe.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Anyways,
And it wasn't Top Gun. It was Afterburner.
That's
There
it.
you
That's
go.
it. That's the one.
Jeez.
That's the one. There you go.
Bam.
Okay, so you had Sega Master System, and what else?
Sega Master System was all I owned, but I had a buddy that lived across the street from me, and his parents didn't have a lot of love for him, so they just bought him everything. They had money and shit, but no time for him, so he had all the toys and all the video games. So in turn, I had all the video games and all the toys. So
You
he
were
had
hanging out.
he had every system, every single one that came out, every new generation of whatever.
Wow.
NES, Super NES. I stopped hanging out with them before N64 came out.
You
But
didn't buy
it was
N64.
like Genesis
You're
and-
not. I'm not being your friend anymore.
yeah,
Did he-
that's
you
it.
didn't
I'm out.
upgrade.
No,
Did he
I ended
have
up
a pool and a trampoline.
I ended up
or-
moving.
Oh,
There was no pool. There was no pool, but there was other things. so.
fucking video games.
Yo.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah.
I remember that friend who had a pool.
Oh,
It's just like
man, there's a house down here that's got a pool, and it's like 39 degrees outside. You just hear this, yeah, psh, splashing in the pool, yeah, and it's just like, and I can't complain. I got air conditioning, but when you like sit outside and you hear that it's just like, wow.
Oh man.
Wow.
Dude, get your shovel and start digging.
No kidding.
You'll have a pool by next year.
Right. Fuck. I'm going to be prepared for next year. That's for sure.
Yeah. But anyways, good topic, Mike. That was a good choice, and thanks for bringing her back for me, because it was I didn't know that was what that was until I looked it up. So it was fun to do a dive on that one.
Totally. The thing that, it's touched basically every album since. I mean, not that anybody buys CDs or albums for the most part anymore, so it's kind of a dead point now, but it changed a lot. So
well, and yeah, and the last thing I just want to say too is I noticed on some of our episodes it's got the explicit E on it in Spotify. So like, do you have to click that off in order? You do, hey? Okay, interesting.
I have to turn it on for explicit or not.
Right. So there's a little bit of the of Tipper Gore maybe right there that they have to.
It's
interesting. Put an E next to your episode, right, or your song, whatever it is. So.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. Right on. You want to end it there?
Do.